Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I'm Nurse Alyssa, and today we're going to be going over the basic physiology of skin. I've decided to do a at-home wound care series, so that this video is part of that, and I'll be going over like the basic function of skin, underlying structures, how our skin changes with age, and how we heal. So that's what I have in store for this video. If you haven't done so already, if you could smash that subscribe button, it would be greatly appreciated as it truly does help my channel. So let's get started. So what is the skin? The skin is the largest organ in the body, and it has two main layers. It has the epidermis and the dermis. These layers are supported by several underlying structures. And the skin's most important job is to create a barrier between the environment and the internal organs. The skin also regulates and controls various other functions, and any opening in the skin is considered a wound. So what is the skin made of? So we have the outermost layer, which is our epidermis. Okay, so that's what you can actually see is our epidermis. It creates a waterproof barrier to hold in moisture, and it also keeps moisture out. So the thickness of the epidermis, it does depend on the location of the body. So for example, our tympanic membrane in our eardrum, that is going to be thinner than the soles of our feet. Next, we have our dermis. So our dermis lies just beneath our epidermis, and this provides structure to the skin and is necessary for wound closure, okay? The dermis, it does contain our sweat glands, which help regulate our body temperature, and sebum, which keeps our skin from drying out. Next, we have blood. So the blood is the bodily fluid that supplies nutrients and body to the body tissue and also collects waste. Blood is mostly water, so it's about 90% water, but it also contains proteins, glucose, mineral ions, hormones, carbon dioxide, platelets, and blood cells. So the blood distributes the nutrients and collects waste, which is necessary for healing. Okay, then we have our lymph. So this is a clear fluid which consists of water, lipids, waste products, white blood cells, and other minerals. So the lymph does several things, which includes returning proteins to the bloodstream, picking up bacteria and transporting them to the lymph nodes, and transporting fats from the digestive system. Okay, so what other structures underlie the skin? So we have our subcutaneous tissue. So this is our fat-filled cells, which is under the dermis, okay? So directly under the skin, we have a layer of fat. So this regulates the skin and body temperature. It insulates the body. It absorbs trauma. The size does vary throughout the body and from person to person. Then we have our fascia. It's a web of strong connective tissue between the skin and the muscle. So this structure does provide support and protection. It also absorbs shock, and it's the first line of defense against infection. Okay. Next, we have our muscle, and we're kind of going in order down. Okay, so next we have our muscles. So this is specialized tissue that is able to contract and conduct electrical impulses. Then we have our tendons. So this is a band of connective tissue that connects muscle to bone. And then we have our ligaments. So this is short bands of connective tissue that connects bones to other bones in form of a joint. Okay, and then we have our bones, which is hard white connective tissue that provides protection and strength and support to the body. We have our joints. So this is where two or more bones make contact. Joints allow movement to provide mechanical support. And then we have synovium. So this thin layer of tissue lines the joints and tendons, and it acts like a lubricant to reduce friction in during movement. So what does our skin do? The skin is a defense barrier. The skin protects against trauma from water, chemicals, microorganisms, mechanical stress, irradiation. Skin also regulates temperature. So skin regulates temperature by interacting with brain structure called the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus has temperature sensors that cause either sweating when the body overheats or increases heat production when the body drops too low. The skin connects the mind and the body to the external world, okay? So the skin also manufactures hormones and neurotransmitters. So the skin makes and uses hormones like vitamin D, steroids, thyroid hormones. Skin also makes neurotransmitters and hormones that are used by the brain. The skin assists in the immune system. So when a foreign material is present, special skin cells called mast cells trigger an immune response, and they signal other components of the immune system to become active. So skin is also a sensory organ. So it does help us detect temperature, touch, and vibration. It also helps us communicate. So skin acts like a signal for social and sexual communication. And it's also self-sustainable. So millions of our skin cells are shed every day and new skin cells are regenerated to take their place. And we are left with a brand new epidermis about every 35 to 45 days. So next we have, how does our skin change with age? So the regrowth process slows. The thinning of the epidermal layer can decrease a protein called collagen, which gives the skin the ability to stretch and return to its shape. This means skin is more likely to wrinkle. Okay. Next, we have our skin pH is more neutral, so this makes us more susceptible to infections. So as we age, our bodies do become less acidic. So reduced acidity does kill fewer bacteria, resulting in more infections. So normally, like, our skin is acidic when we're younger, and we get a little cut, so there's not as many bacteria there. But as we age, we have more bacteria on our skin because it's more neutral, so the bacteria doesn't die, and any little cut, it's more at risk for infection. So our skin also becomes less firm and less elastic. So the skin cells replace more slowly. So the aging process causes a biochemical change in the protein collagen, which gives our skin the structure and its firmness, and collagen tissue elastin, which gives our tissue elasticity. Okay, so the rate of change differs from individual to individual. It depends on genetics, overall health, sun exposure, and skincare. Next, we are going to go over, how does the skin heal? So when the skin is damaged, it starts attending to itself right away to protect the body. So this regeneration process occurs naturally in healthy individuals, and there are 4 phases to the wound healing. So first we have homeostasis. So this begins immediately after injury. Specialized blood cells called platelets block off damaged blood vessels. So the platelets come into the wound immediately, and that's what stops the bleeding. So platelets also secrete a protein called growth factors, which help initiate later healing steps. Our second stage is inflammation. So this is our swelling and warmth associated with the pain of the injury. So inflammation usually lasts about 4 days following the injury. Inflammation causes blood vessels to leak a plasma and microorganisms into the surrounding tissue, which helps prevent infection. During this stage, growth factors help the cells divide and produce more cells. Specialized cells called macrophages consume any bacteria, providing another line of defense against infection. These cells also help resolve the inflammation at the end of this stage, causing a transition into the third stage of healing. So our third step in wound healing is proliferation. Okay, so this involves the replacement of dermal tissue and the subdermal tissue in deeper wounds. So the proliferation stage begins 4 days after the actual skin injury, and it usually continues till day 21. And specialized cells called fibroblasts secrete collagen, which assists in the regeneration of the dermal tissue. This healing stage is also characterized by contraction, which during this it brings the edges and it pulls it together to close the wound. Next, we have remodeling. So this is the realignment of collagen tissue. So I like to say in the proliferation phase, it's like they're just throwing bricks on top. There's no structure to it. They just want that wound closed. Remodeling is when they put it all nicely in place where everything should be. And this can actually take up to 2 years. The remodeling phase, where the collagen fibers are where they should be, can take up to 2 years. After remodeling occurs, the skin's ability to stretch and return to the shape is only about 70 to 80% as strong as it was before the injury. And scar tissue forms, and it does become thicker over time. So that's why with pressure ulcers, we have to be so careful, because it does take up to that 2-year mark to actually fully heal, and it's only about 70 to 80% as strong as it was before. So the reoccurrence of these pressure ulcers, they're going to keep happening if we don't do preventative measures, and this is why. Next, we have what is the difference between an acute wound and a chronic wound. So an acute wound is a wound that is going to heal normally. So it does follow the 4 steps as we just went over. And this occurs when the cause of the wound is removed and the environment is ideal for healing. So acute wounds differ in time. It takes to heal depending on the size of the wound, but it does follow the 4 steps and it does keep progressing. Now, chronic wounds, really they're acute wounds that are not progressing through the 4 stages of wound healing, okay? So they're not going through that properly. So failure to follow these steps in a correct order within a given time frame is caused by unresolved factors that interfere with healing. So some chronic wounds eventually progress through these stages, but proper anatomy function is not restored, okay? So this occurs when the cause of the wound is not corrected or the environment for wound healing is not ideal. Some chronic wounds do progress through these stages. This occurs when the cause of the wound or other functions affecting the wounds cannot be resolved, okay? So some wounds are just not going to close. So I hope you did enjoy that simple introduction to just basic skin physiology to start off my new series of at-home wound care. And if you haven't done so already, if you could smash that subscribe button, it would be greatly appreciated. And I will catch you guys in my next video. I will see you guys soon.